Howdy, y'all. I'm Mr. Reardon here. In this presentation, I'm going to walk you through the first part of the process of writing a research paper. I'm using the term research paper interchangeable with the term synthesis because in the context of AP English Language and Composition, these two are effectively the same kind of writing. So this first presentation is going to walk you through the process of choosing a topic for your research paper and for developing that topic into a central research question. So here we go. For this presentation, for anyone watching this online who is not my student, I want to make sure it's clear. You should use this presentation if you have been asked to write a research paper by an instructor that is somewhere in the range of 5 to 15 pages. I think shorter or longer research papers just would have a different system, right? This system wouldn't quite work for them. And second, your instructor has not given you a specific prompt or a set of specific sources or readings to select from as you write your paper. In my class for this paper, there is not a specific set of sources, and there's also not a specific prompt. The task really is for everyone to go through the process on their own of developing a topic based on something they're interested in and finding their own sources and doing the research, like is often asked of students in college. And third thing, you are not being asked to develop your own experimental data in your paper. This kind of research paper is not that kind of research paper. That is in some applications, in some fields in college, you will definitely be expected to run your own experiments and develop your own data and put together a piece of original research based on that data. That is a different kind of paper than what I'm going to be asking you to write. So this model doesn't really work for those highly quantitative pieces. There are 4 steps to the process of selecting your topic and refining it to be ready to actually get started in writing your paper. So the first step is just getting a sense of the things your paper could be about, right? So you're looking at the world's big questions. You're looking at pre-constructed lists of research topics, and you're looking for something that piques your interest. And then once you have found a topic that seems interesting to you, that speaks to you, you should start poking around the internet, right? Peruse websites, peruse sources, run Google searches, figure out whether that topic you came across in step 1 is actually something that you're interested in doing a deep dive on and really spending a lot of time thinking about and exploring and researching and writing about. Now, as you might imagine, these 2 steps are not really just a 1 followed by 2 and then you're done, right? You need to slow down and go through this process iteratively, right? So first of all, for every question you're looking at, for every potential topic, you should slow down and you should really take a moment to look at sources, right? Consider them, read the beginning and end of the source, read the titles, look at the credibility of the sources, right? Just get a sense of whether these kinds of things are what you want to be looking at and reading, and whether this topic is something you really want to be looking at and reading about and thinking about a lot. And then once you've done that, right, once you've gone through that process, you could either move on or you might need to go back, right? Let's say that you go through that process and you realize, actually, this topic isn't really that interesting to me. It's not something I want to spend a lot of time on. I'm not that passionate about it. Then go back, do step 1 again, right? Find something else. Choose another topic from those lists or from from the world's big questions that you might find something else that you might want to look at. Right? It's only when you're doing step 2 and you have a moment, right? You have a whoa moment, right? Where you as you're doing your research, as you're reading, you think to yourself, whoa, that's interesting. Whoa, I want to know more about that. whoa, I really want to read more about this topic. Whoa, I'm this idea really speaks to me, or this question really speaks to me, or the possibilities or the realities, or maybe my personal experience of this topic is just really is really um, uh, it hits close to home. It's raw. It really speaks to you. It's when that moment happens, right, that you can move forward from step 2 onto step 3, right? And step 3 is taking that topic, that little nugget of a topic that really speaks to you and makes you happy and makes you excited, and you need to narrow it down to make it manageable for your paper's intended length and depth. I said for the paper my students are writing, it's going to be around 5 to 7 pages. So it needs to be your topic should be something that you can manage in 5 to 7 pages, right? It should not be a topic design that would be better for a 50-page college thesis, right? It should be a manageable topic, a more specific topic. And then once, of course, you've narrowed down your topic, you need to develop it into a central research question, or CRQ, right? You need to have a question that you can refer back to and constantly ask yourself as you do your research, right? If you come across a source and it doesn't really help you to answer your question in any way, you can move on to another source. Having that question and having it in the form of a question instead of just a statement can really help you to decide later on which sources and which ideas are useful and helpful, and which you can pass up and move on without spending too much unnecessary time on them. Right, so 4 steps. For the rest of this presentation, I'm going to give you some specifics on on engaging in these 4 steps for your paper. So first thing, looking at the big questions. Right, you might just run a Google search for research paper topics. This is totally a valid strategy. You could also run a Google search for big questions facing society or big questions facing humanity. If you're someone who's maybe less interested in the just looking at a huge list of pretty specific topics, but instead you want to think about the world's big questions, the big questions that your generation is going to be wrestling with between now and 2100, right? Then you might take that second option. If you're in my class, I'm actually going to post some links directly to some websites to Schoology for you to look at that do for both of these things. I essentially did these steps for you and found some things that I've pre-selected some things that you can look up. You could also check out some other resources available to you that are specific to your class. That includes your textbook, right? In AP Lang, you probably have the language of composition, so use that right at the end of each chapter, and sometimes even at the end of the major texts in each of the thematic chapters. There are some ideas for writing, and you could look there as well if just Googling around hasn't really returned anything for you for this first step that you're interested in looking at more. All right. So next step is perusing sources. So once you come across, in step 1, once you've come across a topic that's interesting to you, you need to take some time to Google around, right? Learn more about that topic. Figure out what people are saying about this topic, right? Use or get a sense of what the conversation is like. Get a sense of what kinds of sources are available to you. Are there a lot of blogs? Are there newspaper articles? Is it just universities talking about this topic? Is it something that high school students are mostly concerned about, or older folks are mostly concerned about? Right? Get a sense of just what the conversation is like. You don't have to read anything too intensely here, but just like peruse the sources, kind of like you might do in a synthesis question on the AP exam, right? To give those sources a first look through and just get a sense of what they're like. I highly recommend that you look beyond what Google's algorithms can serve you. Google is only going to give you actually a small fraction of all of the materials that are available on the internet. In Palo Alto, we have the One Search Discovery tool that is in Rapid Identity. If you log in, it's just one of those little bubbles you can click on. Use that, because what you can do is search all of the academic journals, or at least most of them, that PAUSD has access to, and figure out what like universities and actual scholars are saying on your topic, instead of just what random people on the internet might be writing or what news articles are saying. Of course, if you're in a position to do so, you can see what books and other physical resources might be available to you on your topic, to just again get a sense of like, is this something that I would really be interested in learning a lot about? Do I really want to read the books that are around on this topic, or the most important texts people have written on this topic? Of course, as I'm recording this on the 12th of April 2020, and there is the novel coronavirus pandemic going on, so you are not going to a library. You need to stay home. But if you're watching this later and you can go to a library, this is another option for step two. Again, or another thing, right? As you start to finish this process, just ask yourself, first of all, are people saying enough about this topic? Is there enough conversation about this topic that I actually can choose from a variety of reliable sources as I start working on my paper? And of course, this important question: does this topic excite me? Do I really want to spend 7 weeks in AP Lang writing about this topic? Or do you want to spend however much time you've been given to write this paper on this topic? If the answer is no, right? If your honest answer in your heart of hearts is no, this is actually not really that interesting to me, you need to go back and do step one again, right? Go back, look through the list of sources, find something else that speaks to you, right? If you choose a topic that you are honestly passionate about, that matters to you, writing a paper like this will actually be an enjoyable process. Righty. So, another note about perusing sources: if when you're Googling around, you might be getting a lot of junk. You might be getting sources that seem to be unreliable. You might be getting sources that are just poorly written, or completely full of ads, or just for some reason aren't working for you. Here's how you deal with that. You need to cut certain domain extensions from your search, right? So here's an example. If you type in climate change -com -net, what's going to happen is that you get a bunch of results as normal, but any website ending in .com or .net will be removed from the list. They won't be there anymore. So you can look at the sources only from nonprofit organizations, or only from public schools, or only from post-secondary institutions. And in so doing, that can filter out some of the noise and some of the less reliable sources. Here's another example. Oh, that's a typo. This should say climate change site:/.edu. Site:/.edu. What'll happen there is that you get only .edu websites. So that is only post-secondary institutions, only colleges and universities. Another example: climate change in quotes and Palo Alto in quotes would return only results that have the phrase climate change exactly as written and the phrase Palo Alto exactly as written, both in the same result and on the same web page. So the quotes and the operator can be helpful to you here. Of course, you can mix and match these, right? You could do quote climate change end quote and quote Palo Alto end quote site:/.edu, and then you would get only websites that have the phrase climate change and the phrase Palo Alto and were written by someone at a college or university. Or in so doing, right, you can really narrow your searches and get Google to give you only the juiciest bits. Again, for my students, I'm posting a website to Schoology, to one of the pages in the Roles Week 1 folder, for you to actually look at more of these Google Boolean operators, so you can do these searches on your own. All right, step three, narrowing your topic. Oh, I forgot to mention here, a pitfall. This was way back here. Right, a common pitfall in writing research papers early in the process is just saying, "Oh, I got to write this paper. Oh, it's I don't really care that much about research papers. I don't really want to write this paper, but I have to do it. So I'm just going to choose something that I don't really care that much about." That is actually not a good decision, right? You will write the paper maybe, and it might be good. It also might not be that good, and also you will not like the process very much. But if you choose something you actually care about and you take the time early on to choose something you care about, you will enjoy the process a lot more. You will feel you will resonate with your readings and your uh, the ideas that these authors present as you do your research, and you will really feel a sense of exhilaration as you take these ideas of different authors and put them together in some new and interesting synthetic ways. So we went through that already. So the third point here is to narrow your topic. Now, a second pitfall in writing these research papers is often choosing a topic that is too broad. Right? You just can't do a really broad topic justice in a short research paper. Right? A very broad topic is for a very long paper. Um, a a really really long research paper is something you're familiar with. It's called a book, a work of nonfiction. If you're one of my students, you've read 5 or 6 of them by this point. So or just in this school year. So you know what those really long research papers are like. They You are not writing one of those. You are writing a short, right, 5 to 15 page, or excuse me, 5 to 7 page paper if you're one of my students. So, how do you narrow a topic? Well, one way you can do it is by choosing the specific group of people you want to consider in light of your topic, right? Uh, not just a general like this, not just a general topic, but a general topic as it relates to who. You might want to focus on your topic as it relates to a specific place. You might want to think about your topic with respect to a time period or a span of years. A short time period is good, but too short a time period can restrict the sources that are relevant to your argument. And so I would avoid narrowing the time period too much. So here are some examples. Starting with the non-examples. Here's an example of a topic that is way too broad, right? The impact of climate change on humanity. Like, whoa, slow down, right? That is not even going to work. That is the impact of a climate change on humanity is the subject of numerous books. Um, this one is still too broad, right? The impact of climate change in the Bay Area. This one, still too broad, right? The impact of climate change on the daily lives of Palo Alto residents. Okay, when, right? How? This one, though, might work. The impact of climate change on Palo Alto residents' daily lives between 2000 and 2020. Like, okay, now you could talk about some different things. You could talk about, the new recycling programs. You can talk about the changing weather patterns, how it's been getting much hotter here than it did in the past, right? So things like that. Now you have some specific things you could talk about. And now here's an example of one that would be too narrow, right? You overshoot the narrowing of your topic. The impact of rising sea levels on Palo Alto residents' use of the Baylands Nature Preserve in summer 2018. Like, did rising sea levels even have that much of an impact on how Palo Alto residents used the Baylands Nature Preserve in summer 2018? Like, it seems so specific that you might not be able to even find a single source that would support claims on that topic. Of course, if you do some narrowing and you determine that what you thought was a good topic actually is still not narrow enough, you can do a little more narrowing as you develop your thesis statement. When you write a closed thesis statement for a short research paper, you will inevitably do some narrowing anyway. All right, so don't worry too much about that, but just really make sure that you're not you're not trying to write a paper to a really broad topic. Here's another example. This one is way too broad, right? The pros and cons of the American education system. Like American, are we talking kindergarten? Are we talking, sixth grade, middle school? Are we talking high school? Are we talking California? So, if we're talking California, Bay Area or rural California, Northern California, Southern California, right? It's there's this applies to so many people, so many places, so many time frames that it's too broad. This one's still too broad. Key issues with the American education system. Also, still too broad. Key issues facing American public high schools in 2020. Um, this one could work. All right, the three most pressing issues facing high performing American public high schools in the 2020s. I don't know why there's a question mark there. You can ignore that. This one, though, would be too specific. The impact of the 2018 elimination of C days from Pally's Bell schedule on struggling students' learning. Right? Where would you even get data on that, especially right now? That is, it's too specific. Again, same thing. You can always narrow your topic further when you develop your thesis later on. All right. So, fourth step. Oh wait, that should be a 3. Oh, so many typos today. Okay. Step 4. Right, developing a central research question. Right, this step actually doesn't take very long. If you have a clear and effectively narrowed down topic that you're passionate about, all you have to do is form it into a question. Right, so in true Jeopardy fashion, you need to make your figure out how to take the specific topic statement, the narrowed down topic statement, and turn it into a question that can drive your research. So, how has climate change impacted the daily lives of Palo Alto residents since 2000? Or what are the three most pressing issues facing high performing American public high schools in the 2020s? Right. So turn it into a question. Alrighty, a few final notes here. Um, I'm going to suggest that you consider avoiding COVID-19 for this research paper. If you're watching this, you're one of my students and you're watching this right now in April 2020. And it is, yes, it's all around us. Everybody's talking about COVID-19. People are talking about, its past, where it came from, how it came to be. People are talking about how its impact on the world right now. People are talking about how it might impact the world in a week, a month, 3 months, 2 years, 10 years, right? It's totally around us all the time. I think it would be a good idea for you to focus on something else for your research paper, right? The COVID-19 is still too raw. We're still in it, right? It's still too much a reality of our day-to-day lives to be writing a research paper on any aspect of it right now. Who knows? You could be halfway through your paper in early May, and you realize, and then some discovery is made that completely changes your argument, and then you feel a little yucky for having written what you've written so far, and you have to do a bunch of extra work. No, I don't want you to do that. So again, you can also go back and tweak your topic later on as you look more closely at your sources and do your research, right? Maybe you come across something in your sources that totally just changes the way you decide you want to look at your topic. Okay, that's fine. You can do that. Research in general is an iterative process. If you make one single claim and then stick to your guns, even if the research you're doing seems to suggest something other than what the claims you're arguing for, that could set you up for a low paper grade or worse. Even like it might even lead to the potential for academic dishonesty. So you definitely don't want that. And one more thing, if you're one of my students watching this, please don't forget to submit your exit ticket where you show me that you have come up with a sufficiently narrow research paper topic and formed it into a central research question to Schoology. I would like to see that. I'd like to give you some feedback on that. I need it by Thursday this week, Thursday. I've set the due date as 5 p.m. because you don't really need to work. I don't want you to be working on it until quite literally the 11th hour. you should try to get it done during the day. I will, if it's not there by Thursday, I can't guarantee you'll get feedback on Friday. Friday is the day I'm setting aside to give feedback, so please make sure it's there. I am looking forward to looking at it. Alrighty, thank you.